Agape is not a weak sentiment. It is not a tender mood that comes in the morning and dies before the evening meal. It is not a little warmth that visits the heart when everyone is kind, when the bills are paid, when the children are quiet, when the husband has spoken gently and the wife has not been wounded. No, this love is the law of the new creation, carried into the kitchen, into the bedroom, into the nursery, into the family table, into the place where tempers are tested and words are born. It is the Jesus kind of love taking its seat in the home and saying, "I shall rule here." You see, God is love. That is not poetry. That is not a golden sentence for the wall. That is the unveiling of the Father's very being. God is love. And if we are born of God, then we are born of love. If His nature has come into us, then love is not an ornament hung upon the Christian life for Sunday display. Love is the very nature that must govern Christian conduct. The new creation is a love creation. The new man is called to live by a new law. In this new covenant there is one ruling word, and that word is love. We have made love too small. We have made it a feeling. Feeling asks, "What do I want?" Feeling says, "How have I been treated?" Feeling says, "I will speak if I am pleased. I will forgive if I am satisfied. I will be kind if I am first honored." But the Jesus kind of love asks another question. It asks, "What does the Father desire here?" It does not wait until the flesh has been comforted. It does not wait until pride has been paid. It does not wait until the other one deserves tenderness. Love takes counsel with God. Love listens to the recreated Spirit. Love says, "I am here to reveal the Father." Can you see what that would mean in a home? Can you imagine a household where every member accepted one law before speaking, before correcting, before answering, before buying, before disciplining, before remembering an old wrong, before opening the door to another quarrel? One law, the law of love, not the law of wounded pride, not the law of "I am right," not the law of "You hurt me and now I shall hurt you," not the old law that has filled homes with sharp words and sulking silences, and children who learn fear before they learn fellowship. Family strife is not a little thing. Sharp words are not harmless because they are spoken indoors. Sulking silence is not holy because it makes no noise. Wounded children, proud parents, husbands and wives standing face to face demanding their own way. These are the sad fruits of another government. Beneath every quarrel there is a throne. Beneath every bitter answer there is a law at work. Beneath the slammed door, the cold meal, the unpaid kindness, the remembered insult, there is the old law of selfishness resisting the new law of love. And the tragedy is this, that many of God's children have carried the name of Jesus into the home, but have not given the Jesus kind of love lordship there. They pray, but they strike with their tongues. They read the word, but they keep account of evil. They sing, but the children hear another music at the table. They say God is love, but the atmosphere of the home says fear, resentment, criticism, and self-will. What it would mean if love were enthroned. The husband-father no longer ruled by harshness, but by tenderness with strength. The mother-queen no longer crushed beneath resentment, but crowned with the quiet authority of love. The children no longer hiding from anger, but growing in the fragrance of fellowship. The table no longer a battlefield, but a place where the Father's nature is made known. The bedroom no longer cold with memory. The kitchen no longer hot with accusation. The nursery no longer filled with the echo of strife. The troubled home does not need more accusation first. It needs love enthroned. It needs the Jesus kind of love made Lord over speech, over temper, over money, over parenting, over memory. Every step out of love is a step into trouble. Every step into love is a step into the Father's own way. Love never faileth. God is love. And when that love becomes the law of the home, strife begins to lose its authority. Strife begins before the voice is lifted. It begins before the door is closed hard. It begins before the bitter sentence is spoken. It begins when self climbs upon the throne of the heart and says, I must have my rights. I must be understood. I must be obeyed. I must be considered first. You see, the loud voice is only the bell ringing after the fire has already started. The harsh word is only the fruit. The root is deeper. It is the old selfish law ruling where the love law should have reigned. Selfishness is the mother of strife. It may wear a fine garment. It may call itself justice. It may say, I am only standing for what is right. It may call itself tiredness and say, I have borne all I can bear. It may call itself correction and say, the child must learn. It may call itself financial concern and say, we must be careful. It may call itself wounded dignity and say, I cannot let myself be treated that way. It may call itself parental authority and say, this is my house. But underneath the garment, underneath the explanation, underneath the religious tone, there is often that same old voice saying, I must be first. That is the law that builds strife in the home. It is not merely disagreement. It is not merely the fact that two minds do not see alike. A home can have questions, burdens, bills, sickness, misunderstandings, and still have fellowship if love is on the throne. But when sense knowledge governs, when reason becomes self-assertive, when pride takes the chair at the table, then every little thing becomes fuel. The forgotten errand becomes an accusation. The tired answer becomes evidence. The unpaid bill becomes fear. The correction of a child becomes a place for anger to display itself. Memory opens its books and begins to read aloud every old wrong that love should have covered. Can you see the husband coming home from the office? He has been wounded there. Perhaps a man spoke roughly to him. Perhaps the day went wrong. Perhaps business pressed upon him until his nerves were weary. But instead of giving his spirit right of way, instead of letting the Jesus kind of love rule that hour, he brings the bitterness of the office to the supper table. The children become afraid of his face. The wife studies his mood before she speaks. The meal that might have been fellowship becomes a court, and every innocent word is tried as though it were a crime. He says, I am tired. But love asks, why must your weariness become another's burden? He says, I have had a hard day. But the love law says, then let me make you tender, not cruel. Can you see the wife who has been hurt so many times that she has learned to answer pain with coldness? She does not shout. She withdraws. She punishes with silence. She builds a wall and calls it protection. She says, I will not speak until he sees what he has done. But that silence has no fragrance of love in it. It is not the quietness of the recreated spirit. It is the old law of self-preservation, using stillness as a weapon. The children feel it though no word is spoken. The house grows chilled. The husband hardens. Fellowship waits at the door, and pride will not open. Can you see the parent who corrects in anger? the child has done wrong, and wrong must be corrected. Love is not weakness. Love does not let disorder reign. But discipline outside of love becomes domination. The hand may be strong. The voice may be firm. The command may even be necessary. But if anger is the spirit of it, the child does not learn God. He learns fear. He learns resentment. He learns how grown people use power when they are displeased. And later, when that child speaks to a younger child, or to a friend, or one day to a husband or wife, he repeats the lesson. Strife becomes an inheritance, not because God ordained it, but because selfishness was performed before his eyes until it seemed natural. Natural affection loves when it is pleased. It is tender when it is honored. It gives when it is thanked. It smiles when it is obeyed. But cross it, deny it, misunderstand it, and often it becomes hard as stone. That is not the Jesus kind of love. The Jesus kind of love loves when it costs. It bears when it is misunderstood. It speaks when silence would punish. It is silent when speech would wound. It corrects without hatred. It gives without bargaining. It forgives before pride has been satisfied. It does not ask first, "How can I defend myself?" It asks, "How can the Father be revealed here?" Every step out of love is a step into trouble. Out of love, the tongue becomes a weapon. Out of love, wit becomes cruelty. Out of love, truth becomes a club instead of bread. Out of love, discipline becomes domination. Out of love, economy becomes fear. And the home begins to bow before bills as though the father had no care for his children. Out of love, memory becomes a storehouse of accusations, and the soul walks down its dark aisles, choosing old injuries to throw into today's conversation. Love never does that. Love worketh no ill. Love does not keep polishing the knife of yesterday's wrong. You see, the issue is not that homes have disagreements. The issue is that homes have been governed by sense knowledge, wounded pride, and self-preservation instead of the recreated spirit. Sense knowledge says, "I know what I see. I know what I feel. I know what they meant. I know what I deserve." Wounded pride says, "I will not yield first." Self-preservation says, "If I love like that, I will be used." But the recreated spirit says, "God is love, and His nature is in me. I can walk in love. I can give love right of way. I can let the Father's life govern this hour." Family strife is the visible fruit of the hidden rule of selfishness. Do not begin with the fruit only. Do not merely say, "I must stop shouting," while self still holds the throne. Do not merely say, "I must be more pleasant," while pride is still king. The old law must be dethroned. The old "I must be first" must bow before the new commandment. The love law must enter the secret place where motives are born, where answers are formed, where memories are chosen, where discipline is shaped, where money is feared or trusted, where fellowship is either preserved or broken. What would happen if, before the next answer, you judged not the other person first, but the law that is ruling you? What would happen if you asked, "Is this the Jesus kind of love? Or is this self defending its throne?" That question would stop many quarrels before they were born. It would save many children from tears. It would bring many husbands and wives back from the edge of bitterness. For when selfishness is exposed, love can take command. And when love takes command, strife has lost the hidden throne from which it ruled. But now we must not leave the soul under condemnation, as though the Father had shown us selfishness only to make us hopeless. No, no. He uncovers the old ruler that he may show us the new life. He exposes the hidden throne of self that he may unveil the throne of love within the recreated spirit. You are not asked to manufacture the Jesus kind of love out of tired nerves, wounded memories, and poor human affection. You are not asked to gather up the fragments of natural kindness and make them strong enough to govern a home. The Father has done a greater thing than that. He has given you His own nature. You see, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creation. The old things are passed away. Behold, they are become new. What became new? Not your body first. Not your circumstances first. Not your husband, not your wife, not your children, not the house in which you live. Your spirit became new. You were born of God, and God is love. Then the new birth is a love birth. The recreated spirit is born out of love, filled with love's nature, called to walk in love's way. This is not a beautiful theory. This is the heart of redemption. We are born of God, and God is love. Can you see what that means? The love that you have been seeking is not far away. The tenderness you thought must come by struggle has its fountain in you. The patience you thought belonged only to rare saints is a part of the Father's nature in your spirit. The strength to answer softly, the ability to forgive freely, the grace to correct without bitterness, the courage to yield when pride demands its rights, all these belong to the love life that has come into you in Christ. The Christian home is not waiting for heaven to send love as a visitor. Love has already entered that home in the recreated spirits of those who belong to the Master. Human love is often very beautiful. We must not speak lightly of it. A mother's arms around her little child, a husband's care for his wife, a child's confidence in his father. These have a fragrance that touches the heart. But human love is not enough to govern a home when it is wounded, misunderstood, tired, crossed, or unthanked. Human love may smile in the morning and grow cold before night. Human love may give much and then keep account of what it has given. Human love may be tender toward its own and harsh toward the one who disappoints it. Human love may turn to jealousy, resentment, silence, and accusation when self is denied. It is beautiful, but it is unstable because it has its root in the natural man. But the Jesus kind of love has another source. It springs from the Father. It does not depend upon the conduct of the other person for its life. It does not live by praise. It does not die by neglect. It does not say, I will love if I am loved. It says, I love because God is love, and His nature is in me. It is steady because it is divine. It is strong because it is not born of sense knowledge. It is not weak sweetness. It is not emotional softness. It is God's own nature taking command of conduct. Love never faileth, because God never faileth. Now bring that into the home. The mother is not merely trying to be patient. She is not standing alone before the noise, the weariness, the endless calls, the childish disobedience, saying, I must try harder. No, she is a love woman, a daughter of love, one in whom the Father's nature dwells. Before she corrects the child, she can give her spirit right of way. Before the sharp answer comes, she can let the love law rise within her and govern her lips. She can say, "This child shall not learn anger from me. This child shall see the Father's patience clothed in a mother's voice." The Father is not merely trying to control his temper as a man holds a wild horse by the reins. He is a Jesus man. He has received the nature of God. He may come home weary, pressed by business, troubled by bills, disappointed by men, but he need not bring that pressure as a storm into the house. He can pause at the door and say, "I am born of love. I will not let sense knowledge rule this room. I will not make my wife afraid of my face. I will not make my children study my moods. The greater one is in me, and God is love." That man is not pretending. He is acting according to his new nature. Can you imagine a husband seeing himself as a Jesus man before he answers his wife? The answer would be different. The tone would be different. The eyes would be different. The memory he chooses would be different. Can you imagine a wife seeing herself as a love woman before she replies to the wound? She would not speak merely from pain. She would speak from the recreated spirit. Can you imagine children growing up in a house where father and mother say each morning, not with empty words, but with holy purpose, "This is a love household. The love law rules here. We are going to walk in love today." What it would mean if families would begin the day that way. Not under fear, not under strained religious effort, not with the old confession, "I am impatient, I am harsh, I am easily hurt, I cannot help it." You must not talk that way about the new creation. You may have yielded to impatience, but impatience is not your Lord. You may have spoken harshly, but harshness is not your nature. You may have walked in selfishness, but selfishness is not the law of your recreated spirit. Say what the Father says. Say, "I am born of God. God is love. His love nature is in me. I can walk in love." This is the great turn in the message. We are not waiting for love to come down from heaven. Love came down in Christ. Love conquered in Christ. Love was poured into our hearts by the Spirit. Love has made its home in the new creation. The issue now is whether we will give that love right of way. Reason will argue. Sense knowledge will protest. Pride will say, "You will lose." But love says, "Let me rule," and strife will lose its authority. The Christian can walk in love at home because the Father has not left him to human affection alone. The love nature of God is in the recreated spirit. The lover is in you. The love life is in you. The love law is written for you and fitted to you because you are born of love. Now the home must learn to recognize what God has already planted there. The husband must recognize it. The wife must recognize it. The parent must recognize it. The child of God must rise and say, "I am not helpless before strife. I am not a slave to temper. I am not bound to the old family way. God is love, and I am born of God. I will let love rule." And now that love must come down into the common room of life. It must not remain in the church service where the songs are beautiful and the faces are lifted. It must not remain in the prayer closet where no one contradicts you and no child is crying and no bill is lying on the table. It must not be a doctrine for the notebook and a stranger at the breakfast table. No, this Jesus kind of love must sit down with the family when the day begins. It must ride in the car when the nerves are tense. It must stand in the doorway when the husband comes home weary. It must answer the telephone when the voice on the other end is sharp. It must govern the first word, the next word, the final word. Love must become domestic. You see, because love is in the believer, love can rule the place where selfishness has been most familiar. That is the wonder of it. The very room where harsh words have been spoken can become a love realm. The very table where silence has sat like a ruler can become the table of fellowship. The very doorway where bitterness has entered can become the gate of peace. The home is not beyond redemption because love lives there in the recreated spirit. The Father is not asking an empty house to produce His nature. He is asking His own children to give His nature right of way. Can you imagine the home as a little kingdom under the government of love? The husband-father is no longer a king by harsh command, but by sacrifice, by tenderness, by quiet strength. He does not use his voice as a scepter to strike. He does not make his weariness a law for everyone else. He is head in the love way. He bears, he protects, he listens. He asks, "How shall the Father be unveiled through me in this hour?" The mother no longer reigns by wounded silence. She does not withdraw affection to punish. She does not make the atmosphere cold because she has been hurt. She is queen in the love life, crowned with graciousness, strong with the strength of God, filling the house with the fragrance of fellowship. And the children are not little subjects trained in fear, watching faces, measuring moods, hiding mistakes. They are children growing up in the consciousness that God is love and that love has a voice. Love has hands. Love has discipline. Love has order. Love has joy. The first place love takes the throne is in speech. That is where many homes are won or lost. The tongue is a little member, but when it is ruled by pride, it can set the house on fire. But when it is ruled by the love law, it becomes a minister of grace. The answer becomes gentle. The correction becomes measured. The explanation becomes honest without being cruel. The complaint becomes a request washed in kindness. The rebuke becomes redemptive. The apology becomes quick. Oh, what power there is in that little sentence, "Dear, forgive me, I should not have said that." Pride trembles before it. Strife loses its weapon. The old law says, "Do not yield, wait until they yield first." But love says, "Fellowship is more precious than your argument." Can you see what would happen if that sentence were spoken in our homes before the sun went down? Many a night of coldness would never be born. Love does not make the parent weak. No, no. Love is not lawlessness. Love does not call rebellion obedience. Love does not smile at disobedience and say, "It does not matter." It matters. The child must be trained. The will must be guided. The wrong must be corrected. But love will not let anger hold the rod. Love will not permit a father to discipline because his pride has been crossed. Love will not permit a mother to correct because her nerves have been offended. The parent under love pauses long enough to let the recreated spirit speak. Correction, then, becomes redemptive, not retaliatory. It seeks the child's future, not the parent's relief. It teaches righteousness without planting fear. It says, "My child, I am for you. God is for you. This wrong cannot rule you." That is discipline in the love way. Then love enters the place of money pressure. How many homes have been wounded there? The bill comes, and fear enters with it. The shortage appears, and accusation rises. The decision must be made, and husband and wife begin to stand on opposite sides as though the other were the enemy. Sense knowledge says, we have not enough. Fear says, someone must be blamed. Pride says, I told you so. But love refuses to make fear the head of the house. Love does not deny the bill. Love does not pretend there is no shortage. Love simply will not permit money to dethrone the Father. It says, we will face this together. We will speak kindly while we decide. We will not wound one another over bread. We will not let a dollar become Lord where Jesus is Lord. What it would mean if families would put their accounts under the love law. Economy would no longer be stinginess. Giving would no longer be a quarrel. Planning would no longer be accusation. Trust would sit beside wisdom. Can you imagine a home where Jesus and the Father are consciously welcomed, not as Sunday guests, but as the living presence before whom every word is spoken? Not merely, Lord, bless this food, and then a sharp word before the meal is over. Not merely a Bible on the table and resentment in the chairs, but the quiet recognition, the Father is here. The Master is here. We are speaking before Him. We are deciding before Him. We are correcting before Him. We are spending before Him. We are remembering before Him. How safe that home would be. How tender the voices would grow. How quickly pride would lose its courage. How impossible it would seem to keep bitterness as a border in the house where the Father has been given His place. This is where the love law becomes real. Not in lovely speech about love, but in the next breakfast, the next correction, the next money question, the next tired evening, the next telephone call, the next misunderstanding. Love takes the ordinary and makes it holy. Love takes the table and makes it an altar of fellowship. Love takes discipline and makes it training in righteousness. Love takes money pressure and makes it a place of trust. Love takes speech and fills it with the fragrance of God. The home that gives love the throne gives strife no lawful place to sit. God is love. We are born of God. And now we are going to let the love law reign in the rooms where we live. And now we must look at the little child who sits quietly under this law of the home. The child may not know the word theology. He may not understand doctrine as doctrine. He may not be able to explain the new covenant or the recreated spirit or the meaning of righteousness. But he knows the tone in Father's voice. He knows the look in Mother's eyes. He knows whether the house is safe when a mistake has been made. He knows whether prayer changes the atmosphere or whether prayer is only a little religious act set down in the midst of strife. You see, the child is the silent witness of the household law. We have talked much about the love law, but the child sees whether it is law or language only. He hears Father speak of loving God, and then he hears Father speak harshly to Mother. He hears Mother sing of trusting Jesus, and then he sees Mother answer Father with bitterness or cold silence. He hears the Bible read at night, God is love, and then he lies in his little bed while hard words go through the wall like arrows. Can you see what that does to the heart of a child? He is not arguing against doctrine. He is not rebelling against truth. He is simply receiving one of his earliest pictures of God from the law that governs his parents' words and ways. A sharp correction may preach louder than a family devotion. A slammed door may become a sermon. A bitter argument may become a creed in the child's heart. A cold silence at the table may teach him more about fear than 100 words teach him about faith. This is why the home is so holy. This is why the ordinary voice is so sacred. This is why the father's answer and the mother's reply belong to God. The child is learning whether Christianity is something we put on for church or whether it is a living love life that governs the kitchen, the bedroom, the purse, the discipline, the tired hour, and the wounded moment. Can you imagine a little child sitting on the floor with his toys while father and mother speak tenderly of the Lord? Perhaps they have just prayed. Perhaps they have said, "We love Jesus." Then a small disagreement arises. The old tone comes back. A word is spoken that wounds. Another word answers it. The atmosphere changes. The child stops his play. His eyes lift. He does not understand all that has been said, but he feels the spirit of it. Then, with that terrible simplicity of childhood, he says, "Daddy, I thought you loved Mama." Or perhaps he says, "Mama, I thought Jesus made people kind." There is no bitterness in it. There is no accusation as grown people accuse. It is only the pure question of a heart that has seen contradiction and cannot explain it. Oh, what a judgment that little question brings. Not the judgment of condemnation, but the judgment of light. It uncovers the false thing. It shows us that the child believed our confession and then saw our conduct deny it. But do not let that moment drive you into despair. Let it lead you into the love way. The Father is not asking parents to perform a faultless play before their children. He is asking them to let the Jesus kind of love rule when they fail. Perfection of performance is not the witness. Humility is a witness. Confession is a witness. Gentleness after failure is a witness. Quick restoration is a witness. The child who sees father turn to mother and say, "Dear, forgive me. I should not have said that," has seen something of God. The child who sees mother answer, "I forgive you, and I was wrong too," has seen love conquer pride at the family table. You see, repentance in the home is one of love's most beautiful ministries. It teaches the child that wrong does not need to become a kingdom. It teaches him that pride can bow. It teaches him that fellowship is more precious than victory in an argument. It teaches him that the strong person is not the one who never yields, but the one who gives love right of way. What it would mean if children grew up watching parents restore fellowship quickly. They would not think apology is weakness. They would not think tenderness is defeat. They would not learn to hide behind self-defense. They would learn the courage of love. Strife trains children. Do not forget that. Strife is a teacher, but it is a cruel teacher. It teaches fear. It teaches the child to listen at doors. It teaches him to choose sides between the two people he loves most. It teaches him to measure moods before he speaks. It teaches him that love may be withdrawn as punishment. It teaches him to defend himself before he has even been accused. It plants in him the old law of suspicion, and one day he carries that law into his own marriage, his own parenting, his own fellowship. The sins of the household atmosphere pass down, not because they are stronger than redemption, but because they have been practiced before the child until they seem like life. But the Jesus kind of love trains children in another school. It trains them in security. It lets them know that correction is not rejection. It trains them in tenderness because they have heard tenderness in the voices that shaped them. It trains them in courage because they have seen truth spoken without cruelty. It trains them in reverence, because they have felt that God was not merely named in the home, but honored there. The child who grows up under the love law learns that authority can be kind, that discipline can be redemptive, that money pressure need not become accusation, that disagreement need not become war, that memories can be healed, and that God is love. Parents, what are you giving your children? You may give them a house. You may give them education. You may give them your family name. You may leave property, books, tools, lands, accounts, and opportunities. These things have their place, but the greatest inheritance is a love atmosphere. The greatest inheritance is a home where the child can say, I know something of what God is like, for love lived in our home. I saw it at breakfast. I heard it in correction. I felt it when we were poor. I watched it when Father was tired. I watched it when Mother was hurt. I saw love apologize. I saw love forgive. I saw love pray. I saw love rule. Can you see what that would mean to the coming generation? We would not merely tell our children that God is love. We would give that truth hands and feet and eyes and voice. We would let it sit at the table. We would let it answer the child's disobedience. We would let it govern the parent's weariness. We would let it stand between husband and wife before the wound becomes a wall. Then the child would not have to choose between the God of our words and the spirit of our home. The two would become one testimony. And if your children have already seen anger, do not say it is too late. If they have already heard strife, do not surrender them to the old law. Love can begin now. The same child who has heard harsh words can hear love words. The same child who has seen pride can see repentance. The same little heart that has trembled under anger can become quiet under tenderness. Begin where you are. Let the next correction be in love. Let the next failure be followed by confession. Let the next meal be governed by peace. Let the next evening carry the fragrance of the Father. God is love. We are born of God. The children are watching for God in us before they know how to seek Him in words. Let us give them the true picture. Let us make the home a living epistle of the love life. Let us so walk in love that the little ones under our roof will learn, not by fear, not by pretense, not by religious talk only, but by the daily music of a love-governed home, that the Father Himself is love. And now we come to the hidden battlefield. It is not first in the room. It is not first in the voice. It is not first in the child's disobedience, or in the husband's silence, or in the wife's wounded look. It is within. Before the harsh word is spoken, there has been a contest in the unseen. Reason has spoken. Sense knowledge has spoken. Wounded pride has spoken. Memory has opened its book and pointed to the old injury. Self has risen and said, you must defend yourself. You must answer back. You must not let them think they can treat you that way. But down in the recreated spirit, another voice is saying, let love rule. Give the Father right of way. Walk in love. You see, this is where many homes lose their healing. They try to mend divine wounds with natural wisdom. They try to build the love home with the tools of sense knowledge. Natural wisdom can sometimes arrange things. It can make schedules. It can divide duties. It can say, you do this and I will do that. It may even teach courtesy. But natural wisdom alone cannot cast selfishness from the throne, because natural wisdom is so often the servant of self-preservation. It says, protect your rights, save your face, do not appear weak. Wait until the other one comes first. It may sound careful. It may sound just. It may even sound religious. But if it keeps self on the throne and love outside the door, it cannot heal the home. The troubled home is not healed merely by argument. It is not healed by proving who was right. It is not healed by rehearsing the history of wrongs until both hearts are weary and raw. Reason has its place, but reason must not be Lord. Sense knowledge has its place, but sense knowledge must not govern the child of God. The recreated spirit, born of love, must take the throne. God is love. We are born of God. Then the love nature in us must be allowed to rule over the reasoning faculties when those faculties are being used by pride. Can you see the difference? Reason asks, does he deserve my kindness? Love asks, can the Father be manifested through me now? Reason asks, what if she misunderstands my yielding? Love asks, will fellowship be preserved if I obey God? Reason says, I have apologized before, and they did not change. Love says, I am not acting because selfishness has become worthy. I am acting because I belong to God. Reason calculates the other person's conduct. Love obeys the Father's nature. Reason measures, compares, remembers, protects. Love gives. Love bears. Love believes. Love never faileth. Bring that into the marriage. Here is a husband who says, when she speaks first, I will be tender. Here is a wife who says, when he confesses, I will forgive. Each one waits for the other to break the silence. Each one is sure that justice is on his side. Each one says, I am ready, but the other must move first. And all the while, strife sits in the house like an invited guest. The old law is ruling. Self is wearing the crown. But the Jesus kind of love does not wait for selfishness to become beautiful before it acts. God loved us when we were yet sinners. Love took the first step when there was nothing in us to deserve it. If that love is in you, then you can move in the love way before the other has made it easy. Oh, what homes would be saved if one husband, one wife, would let the recreated spirit speak louder than pride. Not a weak yielding to sin. Not pretending that wrong is right. Not calling disorder peace. No, no. Love is not cowardice. Love is the strongest law in the universe. It refuses to let another person's selfishness determine its conduct. It refuses to let a bitter tone make it bitter. It refuses to let neglect make it cold. It refuses to let accusation make it cruel. Love stands there with the nature of God in it and says, I will not be mastered by the thing I am called to conquer. Then bring it into parenting. Sense knowledge sees only the behavior. It sees the broken dish, the careless word, the disobedient act, the untidy room, the restless body, the foolish choice. It reacts to irritation. It says, stop that. I am tired of this. How many times must I tell you? But love sees deeper. Love sees the child's spirit. Love sees the future. Love sees fear behind defiance, hunger behind restlessness, ignorance behind folly, loneliness behind noise. Love does not excuse rebellion, but neither does it strike blindly at the child. Love gives wise authority. Love disciplines with the Father's heart. Love says, this child is not my enemy. This child is under my care. I will not let my weariness become his law. I will not let my irritation become his picture of God. Can you imagine a father pausing before he corrects and letting love look through his eyes? Can you imagine a mother, tired and pressed, refusing to let sense knowledge have the first word? The correction would still come, but it would come clothed. The command would still be clear, but it would be clean. The child would feel authority, but not rejection. He would learn order, but not terror. He would know that love can say no, and that the no of love is safer than the indulgence of selfish softness. And now look at the cross. For there, love showed its method of war. The cross was not loud self-vindication. The cross was not love screaming for its rights. The cross was love bearing, love forgiving, love holding steady while men misunderstood it, mocked it, wounded it, and thought it defeated. Sense knowledge stood at Calvary and said, weakness. Reason said, failure. Pride said, come down from the cross and prove yourself. But love stayed. Love obeyed. Love refused to take the weapons of selfishness, and out of that place of apparent defeat came resurrection life. That is the pattern for the home. Your cross may be the first apology. Your cross may be the soft answer when every nerve wants to answer sharply. Your cross may be forgiving the thing that memory wants to rehearse. Your cross may be holding steady in tenderness while the other person is slow to understand. But if it is the cross of love, it does not end in defeat. Following the cross leads to the empty tomb. Love may look weak for an hour, but resurrection life follows love's obedience. Do not follow sense knowledge when the home is in trouble. Do not let reason, proud and self-assertive, be the final judge. Give your spirit right of way. Say, God is love. I am born of God. I will let love rule over my memory, over my tongue, over my rights, over my reasoning. The home is won there. Strife is broken there. The troubled household begins to come under a new government when the recreated spirit rises and says, love shall be law here. Not pride, not fear, not sense knowledge, but the Father's own love. And now we must stand a little longer before the cross, for there the Father has unveiled love's method of ending war. The cross was not an accident in the love life. It was not a strange interruption in the way of God. It was love going into the very center of hatred and refusing to become hatred's servant. It was love entering conflict without taking conflict's nature. Men spat, but love did not spit back. Men mocked, but love did not mock back. Men nailed, but love prayed. Men stripped him, wounded him, crowned him with thorns, and challenged him to save himself. But love would not save itself by surrendering its own nature. Can you see what that means? Jesus did not conquer hatred by a greater hatred. He did not conquer insult by a sharper insult. He did not conquer injury by revenge. He did not take the weapons of the old law into his hands and call them holy. No, no. The cross was the Jesus kind of love bearing sin until sin lost its dominion. It was love taking the worst that selfishness could do and answering it with the Father's heart. Sense knowledge looked at Calvary and said, defeat. The rulers looked and said, we have silenced him. The crowd looked and said, he cannot save himself. But heaven knew that love was there, breaking the lordship of sin, disarming hatred, and opening the way for resurrection life. This is not poetry. This is the law of the new creation. The same love that hung there is the love that has been shed abroad in our hearts. The same love that refused bitterness at Calvary is now asking for right of way in the Christian home. The same love that conquered sin and death is asking to conquer the sharp answer at the table, the cold silence in the bedroom, the angry correction in the nursery, the accusation over money, the old memory that rises like a witness against fellowship. God is love. And the cross is God's love in conflict, refusing selfishness, bearing wrong, and conquering by releasing life. Every home will meet its little crosses. Do not think that the cross is only a large word for martyrs and missionaries. Your cross may be very near. It may be the sentence, "Dear, forgive me, I was wrong." It may be the refusal to answer a bitter word with a bitter word. It may be serving when the body is tired and no one has thanked you. It may be listening when pride wants to close the heart. It may be forgiving when memory has prepared its long argument. It may be saying no to the child without anger and yes to the child without indulgence. It may be giving when fear says, "Keep everything for yourself." It may be opening the hand, softening the voice, humbling the attitude, and letting the love law have its way when self is crying for the throne. You see, pride does not die beautifully. Self does not surrender without protest. Reason will say, "If you yield now, they will think you are weak." Sense knowledge will say, "You have done this before and nothing changed." Memory will say, "Remember what they said. Remember how they wounded you. Remember how long you have waited." But the recreated spirit says, "Remember Calvary. Remember the Lamb. Remember that love never faileth." The cross calls us away from the old argument of self-protection into the strange majesty of divine love. It says, "Let pride die here, and life will come here." Love may look weak for an hour when it refuses retaliation. It may look as though the one who answers softly has lost. It may look as though the one who apologizes first has surrendered his rights. It may look as though the one who forgives has made light of the wrong. But love is not making light of wrong. Love is taking away wrong's weapon. Love is disarming the old law that keeps the quarrel alive. As long as pride answers pride, the fire has fuel. As long as bitterness answers bitterness, the old kingdom has subjects. But when one child of God stands in the love way and refuses to let selfishness reproduce itself through his tongue, something of Calvary has entered that room. And following the cross leads to the empty tomb. Do not forget that. The cross is not the end of love's story. Love accepts the death of pride, and new fellowship rises. Love accepts the burial of self-will, and peace comes out of the grave. Love lets the old argument die, and a new tenderness begins to breathe in the home. What it would mean if husband and wife believed this. What it would mean if parents believed this. What it would mean if children grew up seeing that in our house, pride is not allowed to live forever. Bitterness is not allowed to sit at the table, and strife is not allowed to become family history. The empty tomb belongs to the home that follows love to the cross. But beware of a false spirituality that sings about the cross and refuses household humility. Do not speak tenderly of Calvary and then speak harshly to your wife. Do not glory in the wounds of Jesus and then wound your child with your own ungoverned spirit. Do not preach redemption and refuse apology. Do not say, "I am crucified with Christ," while your voice is still alive with pride, your attitude alive with resentment, your spending alive with selfishness, your discipline alive with anger. The cross must come into the voice. The cross must come into the look. The cross must come into the purse. The cross must come into the correction. The cross must come into the next apology. Can you imagine the awe of it? The love that defeated sin now stands before your kitchen table. The love that broke death now waits at the doorway of your next conversation. The love that conquered hell now asks to conquer bitterness between two people who belong to the Father. Shall we refuse it? Shall we keep Calvary for our songs and deny it in our homes? No. We are going to let the cross have its meaning in us. We are going to let love refuse selfishness through us. We are going to let resurrection life rise where pride has died. God is love. Love never faileth. And the home that bows to the cross will find that strife has met a power it cannot govern. And now love must come down into the tongue. It must leave the heights of doctrine and take its place upon the lips. It must not be kept as a beautiful truth for meditation while the mouth remains under the dominion of self. You see, the first field of obedience in many homes is not the purse, not the schedule, not the large decision, but the next word. The tongue is a little member, but it can carry heaven or hell into a room. It can carry the fragrance of love, or it can carry the poison of self. It can heal, or it can open the old wound again. It can be the servant of fellowship, or it can become the trumpet of pride. Words have an atmosphere. Do not forget that. A sentence may be true and yet be loveless. A correction may be needed and yet be poisoned by contempt. A disagreement may be honest and yet be dishonoring. Love has a language. The Jesus kind of love does not flatter falsely. It does not call darkness light. It does not make a lie beautiful in order to avoid discomfort. But love speaks truth without cruelty. Love corrects without contempt. Love disagrees without dishonor. Love says the faithful thing in the Father's Spirit. Love will not let truth become a weapon in the hand of pride. Can you see what that would mean in the home? The same fact may be spoken two ways. One way wounds, humiliates, and drives the heart behind a wall. The other way awakens conscience and keeps fellowship alive. One way says, "You always do this. You never listen. I am tired of you." The other way says, "Dear, this has hurt us. Let us face it together. I want to understand you. We will not let strife rule this room." Both may be dealing with the same trouble, but one is the language of self, and the other is love's language. One keeps the old account open. The other begins to close the books of resentment. There are little sentences that would save many hours of bitterness if love were allowed to speak them quickly. "Dear, forgive me. I should not have said that. Let us pray before we answer. I want to understand you. We will not let strife rule this room." These are not weak sentences. They are royal sentences. They belong to the sons and daughters of love. They are the words of people who have found a higher victory than winning an argument. They are the words of a new creation spirit, refusing to let the tongue serve the old law. But reason resists them. Sense knowledge says, "Do not say that yet. Wait until they confess first. Do not humble yourself. Do not give them that advantage." Pride says, "Defend yourself. Make the sharp answer. Let them feel what you have felt." And all the while, love is saying, "Give me your tongue. Let me put fragrance into your words. Let me save fellowship before the wound deepens." Oh, what a solemn thing it is when the believer refuses love the use of his lips. God is love, and that love is in us. Yet the tongue may be yielded to another law if we do not watch. Love also governs timing. Not every true thing must be spoken in the heat of irritation. Not every correction must be delivered when anger is demanding a voice. There are times when the holiest word is silence, until the Spirit is quiet enough to speak in love. There are times when a father must pause before he corrects, not because the child needs no correction, but because the father must not let anger clothe the correction. There are times when a wife must wait before answering, not because the matter is unimportant, but because love refuses to put poison into a true concern. There are times when a husband must say, "I cannot speak about this rightly until I have yielded my spirit to God." That is not escape. That is love taking command of the hour. Bring this into the nursery. A child's spirit is a tender thing. Words may strengthen conscience, or they may bruise dignity. Love words do not humiliate the child. They do not make sport of his weakness. They do not brand him with his failure. They do not say, "You are bad," when love should say, "That was wrong, and we will make it right." Love can be firm. Love can say no. Love can discipline. But love will not crush the little spirit in order to correct the act. The child must feel that authority is not his enemy. He must hear in father's voice and mother's voice something of the father himself. Bring it into marriage. Love words do not keep old accounts open. They do not drag yesterday into every disagreement. They do not say, "This is what you always do," and then open the long book of remembered injuries. Love closes books that pride wants to keep reading. Love refuses to make a museum of wounds. Love says, "We have forgiven that. We will not build today's fellowship on yesterday's resentment." Can you imagine what it would mean if husbands and wives made a covenant with the Father about their words? No sarcasm, no contempt, no cold silence used as punishment, no old wound brought out to win a new argument. Words would become doors instead of walls. You see, the love home is not made by one great emotional moment. It is made by repeated obedience. It is made by small words, small choices, small mercies, quick surrender. It is made when the sharp sentence is refused. It is made when the apology is spoken before pride can harden. It is made when correction is clothed in tenderness, when disagreement bows before honor, when memory gives up its right to accuse, when the tongue stops serving pride and begins serving fellowship. This is where the love law becomes audible. This is where the home begins to have a new fragrance. The children hear it. The husband feels it. The wife rests in it. The very rooms seem different when love has taken the tongue. God is love. We are born of God. Then let love speak through us. Let love answer at the table. Let love correct in the bedroom. Let love govern the hurried morning and the tired evening. Let love put its music into the ordinary sentences of the day. For where the Jesus kind of love rules the words, strife loses one of its chief instruments, and the home begins to breathe the atmosphere of God. And now the love home cannot remain hidden. It may begin at the breakfast table. It may begin in the nursery. It may begin in the quiet apology between husband and wife. But it will not stay there. Love is light, and light has a way of escaping through the windows. The Jesus kind of love that governs the home will touch the neighbor, the church, the school, the office, the shop, the marketplace, and the burdened life that comes near enough to feel its warmth. You see, a home ruled by love becomes a living epistle. Men may argue with our doctrines, but they find it hard to argue with a home where God's nature has become visible. The home is the first school of the love life. If love fails there, our public religion becomes thin. We may sing with fervor, pray with beautiful words, teach with accuracy, and still carry an atmosphere of strife. But if love reigns in the hidden place, if it rules the tired hour, the money pressure, the child's correction, the husband's speech, the wife's wounded moment, then the believer goes out carrying something more than a creed. He carries a life. God is love, and the world has a right to see that love embodied in men and women who have been born of God. Can you imagine what it would mean to the church if the love law that ends strife in the home were allowed to govern believers with one another? Criticism would lose its throne. Suspicion would die for lack of food. Factions would wither. Coldness would be warmed. Men would not whisper against one another and then call it discernment. Women would not wound one another and then call it faithfulness. The strong would bear the infirmities of the weak. The gifted would not despise the ungifted. The wounded would not be left alone in the shadow. The same sentence that saves the home would save many a church. Dear, forgive me. I should not have said that. Let us walk in love. Love is not merely domestic sweetness. Love is revolutionary. It changes the person, and the changed person changes the home, and the changed home touches the social order. The man who walks in love at home cannot become hard and cruel in business without denying his own nature. He cannot be tender at the family table and dishonest at the counter. He cannot speak kindly to his child and grind the poor in his wages. He cannot pray with his wife and cheat the man who trusts him. One law governs the whole life. In this new covenant, there is one law, and that law is love. It reaches the purse, it reaches the contract, it reaches the debt. It reaches the employer and the employee. It reaches the schoolroom, the store, the office, and the street. What would happen if Christian homes became centers of this love life? Wounded people would feel safe when they entered. Lonely people would be remembered. Children not their own would feel welcome. The poor would not be made ashamed. The stranger would sense a presence before he could explain it. There would be meals that became ministries, rooms that became shelters, conversations that became healing, and ordinary hospitality filled with the fragrance of God. The unbelieving man might not understand regeneration, righteousness, or the new creation, but he would say, "There is something in that house that I do not find elsewhere." That is missionary power. A healed household is evidence. A love home preaches when no sermon is being spoken. It says to the weary, "God is kind." It says to the child, "Authority can be safe." It says to the church, "Fellowship is possible." It says to the world, "Christianity is not merely words, it is the nature of God lived among men." And if the Jesus kind of love is the answer for the home, then we must not admire it from a distance. We must not praise it in song and refuse it in conduct. We must yield to it. We must let love have right of way, for when love reigns in the home, that home becomes a lamp in a darkened world. And now, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about the love that is already in you? The love that has been waiting for the throne. The love that has asked for your tongue, your temper, your memory, your money, your discipline, your home. You see, this is not a doctrine to be admired and left in the book. This is not a message to be praised and then forgotten at the first irritation. God is love. You are born of God. The love nature is in you. The question is, will you give it right of way from this hour? Do not wait for a better feeling. Do not wait until the other one changes. Do not wait until the child becomes easier, until the bills are paid, until the pressure lifts, until the old wound stops aching. Love is not waiting for perfect conditions. Love is the law of the new creation now. Give your spirit right away. Let the recreated heart rise up over reason, over pride, over irritation, over the old habit of self-defense. Say it quietly before the Father. I am through letting selfishness rule my home. I am through letting pride speak through my lips. I am through letting bitterness educate my children. Love shall have its way in me. Can you imagine what would happen before this day closes if one child of God obeyed? The cold silence would be challenged. The hard look would be broken. The apology that pride has delayed would be spoken. The wife would hear, "Dear, forgive me. I should not have said that." The husband would hear, "I have held that against you too long." The child would feel a hand upon his head and hear a blessing instead of another wound. Two people who have prayed in separate hearts might kneel together and say, "Father, teach us to walk in love." Strife has slept under the same roof long enough. Do not let it lie there unchallenged tonight. You see, delayed obedience is loss. While pride argues, tenderness dies. While reason explains why you should wait, the child is learning another law. While memory gathers its evidence, fellowship grows cold. Do not let the impulse of the Spirit die while self is making its speech. The home has suffered long enough under the old law. That old law has had its harvest: sharp words, lonely hearts, wounded children, cold meals, silent rooms, and prayers hindered by bitterness. Now let the new law rule. Let the Jesus kind of love enter the next sentence, the next look, the next correction, the next decision. Parents, gather the household under a new confession. Not with noise, not with religious display, but with holy decision. Say it before God and let the children hear the sound of it. As for this home, we will walk in love. Anger will not be Lord here. Bitterness will not educate our children. Selfishness will not write our family history. We belong to God, and God is love. That is not poetry. That is government. That is the love law taking the throne at the family table. That is the Father's nature becoming the atmosphere in which children grow. And then begin in the morning. Before the hurry begins, before the meals, the work, the school, the duties, the bills, give love the day. Yield the tongue to love. Yield the temper to love. Yield the purse to love. Yield the schedule to love. Yield the discipline of the children to love. Say, "Father, let the Jesus kind of love govern me today. Let me speak as love would speak. Let me correct as love would correct. Let me spend as love would spend. Let me serve as love would serve. Let me remember as love would remember. If you do that in the morning, love will be ready for the tired hour in the evening. Do not be discouraged if self rises again. It has ruled long in many hearts, but it has no legal right to rule the new creation. You are not a servant of the old selfish law. You are a son of love, a daughter of love, a child of the Father whose very nature has been imparted to you. When the sharp word rises, refuse it. When the old memory opens its book, close it in love. When pride says, defend yourself, answer, love is my defense. When irritation says, strike, answer, love shall govern. Every step in love is a step out of strife. Every word in love is a door opened to fellowship. Every apology in love is a little resurrection in the home. What it would mean if thousands of Christian homes made this decision now. What it would mean if the church became full of love homes. Homes where God is love is not merely believed, but heard in the voice, seen in the conduct, felt in the correction, tasted at the table, and carried into the street. The world is dark, but a love home is a lamp. The world is hard, but a love home is a witness. The world is weary of words without life, but it cannot easily forget a household where the nature of God is reigning. So we are going to let love rule. We are going to give love right of way. We are going to walk in the love way when reason protests, when pride argues, when sense knowledge demands its rights. We are going to let the next word belong to love, the next apology belong to love, the next act of family life belong to love. God is love. Love never faileth. And from this hour, in this home, by the grace of the Father and the life of the new creation, love shall be law.